Hey, my name is Stephanie and welcome back to my channel, and today it is the 10th of June, which means that 2 years ago I clicked on that submit button for my dissertation, and I cannot believe that it has been 2 years already. That is absolutely crazy. And we've started a little tradition with it because last year I did a similar video where I updated you on what my life looked like a year after uni, so I figured I'd do the same thing as it's now been 2 years. We're going to talk you through what happened last year, and for those of you who are new to my channel, I'll give you a bit of a uni recap on what I did. So in 2015, I know it's so long, it's such a long time ago, I started my BA in French language and culture at the University of Amsterdam, and that's a 3-year degree. I took out an extra year, a 4th year, which I used to go on exchange, so that was the year of 2018 to 2019, and I went to New York City to improve my French. I know that's a funny one, but I had a great time. So 2019 I graduated from my undergrad, and then I ended up moving to the UK where I decided I really wanted to do a master's degree. So I started applying to different master's degrees, and in 2020 I started at the University of Oxford studying French literature for a year. So in 2021 I graduated from my master's degree and I submitted my dissertation on the 10th of June, which is why we're here on the 10th of June. So on that day I was officially done with uni. So if you want to know more about my first year after uni, go watch that video first. I'll link it in the cards, and then come back to this one to see what the next year was like, I suppose, because this one definitely had some weird twists and turns. So let's get into this. So the previous video, I filmed it on the 10th of June last year, and then I uploaded it on the 12th of June, and 2 days later tragedy struck, and I did not see this coming at all whatsoever, and it turned out that my dad actually passed away. His passing was actually relatively unexpected. He was quite ill, so we knew he didn't have like a forever life, if that makes sense, but the doctors, ourselves, everybody was incredibly surprised that he passed away so suddenly. This obviously meant for me that I dropped everything that I was doing at the time. I was working a sort of in-between job doing telesales, and I dropped everything that I was doing and I ran straight back home to the Netherlands. And my life turned into full-time funeral planning mode from that point onwards. It was absolutely crazy, and that also led to probably the strangest week in my life. So we had my dad's funeral on a Tuesday, and then the Wednesday after I flew back to the UK because on Thursday I had my last day of work, and because I quit the job that I had at the time, and then on Friday I was leaving for this massive pre-planned trip to the States, and it was just absolute chaos, and I just couldn't do anything about it because everything was already pre-planned. So this is how it turned out to be, which was crazy. Either way, what lots of people don't realize is that after the funeral, all the paperwork comes in to deal with the passing of a loved one. So even though the funeral planning has been like finalized and done, and we've had the funeral, we had to organize so many different other things, which was wild. And to this day, and it's nearly been a year, we're still not done finalizing everything, which to me is just crazy. Like, I knew people want me for it, but still, you don't expect it to take over a year to finalize things. But yeah, now we go from this like dramatic low into something that was actually going to be quite fun, because I had this trip planned and I saved up money for it, and I really wanted to go on this road trip because I wanted to visit my friends in the US, and I worked this job, this telesales job, to save up money to go on a solo trip of a lifetime. And then obviously that solo trip of a lifetime, I couldn't really leave my mom behind because obviously her husband just passed away and I'm her only child, and then I'm gonna go off on a holiday in a different continent. So I asked her to come with me, and she struggled with the idea at first as well, but she went along, and it was actually, we had a great time. It was good for us to be together, be able to talk, to cry in the car on the road, but also to make new memories. So looking back, it was actually a great idea to just, I know, separate us for like a bit for everything that was ongoing. And the plan behind this trip was that I was going to start a full-time job in September, so this is going to be my last massive trip, because if you have a full-time job, it's quite hard to just take days off and go. So this was my big thing before my grown-up job starts. So I got back in mid-July-ish, and then I went on a week holiday, a very small one, with my husband's family for a bit, which was really chill. But then meanwhile, I was in the States, another, I wouldn't say tragedy, it's not on the same level of tragedy, but another unfortunate event happened. We got kicked out of our flat that we were living in London. Essentially what happened there is that the landlord wanted to sell the flat, and we knew that this has been an ongoing thing. So from May onwards, we sort of had been extending by like a month and then a bit longer. And eventually it came to the point that they were like, no, we're just going to kick you out at this point. And we were like, really? Either way, we needed to pack up our stuff, find a new place, but I wasn't there. So my husband actually had to go out by himself and find a place for us to live in, which is stressful on its own. And that also meant that when I got back from my US trip and then went on the small trip with my husband's family, that I had the month of August just pack up the flat. That was it. In August we were moving, so it was even more chaos on top of the whole paper trail that I was dealing with. I now had to pack up my flat to move, and I was splitting my time between Amsterdam to help out my mum and London to pack my flat. On top of that, I had 2 friends that were staying with me for a week, because this was a pre-planned thing, like pre my dad's passing and pre us knowing that we were going to have to move in August. So obviously I couldn't cancel that trip either, so they were staying with me in the absolute chaos that was August. And one of the reasons that in the beginning we weren't too fussed about extending every single time in the old flat was the fact that we actually had been looking at buying a house, and we had made offers in the past and they didn't get accepted, and there was this whole thing. So we were actually kind of happy to stick it out a month at a time because we were planning on buying a house. So that was one of the reasons that we didn't call it quits earlier. And also we actually really liked the flat that we lived in prior. We absolutely loved that flat. They had a gorgeous backyard. However, all of those previous offers did not lead to anywhere. And then in August we visited another house and we made an offer, and that one actually got accepted. So that was actually quite exciting. So in the back of our mind we were like packing up this flat to move to a temporary place until hopefully this property worked out. So it was a bit of a weird dynamic that we were in. But also the UK, nothing is binding, so we didn't want to celebrate that our offer got accepted or share this to a lot of other people, because effectively we've had so many disappointments in this process in the past already that we didn't want to, you know, celebrate too early, if that makes sense. So the last week of August we actually moved into the flat, and we very much felt that it wasn't really as cute or as us as the previous flat that we lived in, so we never really gave it a chance, if that makes sense. So it didn't really feel like home. Some of the boxes we just never unpacked. It was a bit of a weird one. And in all fairness, it is really hard to find a flat in London, so anything you can get your hands on that's remotely similar to what you're looking for is actually already a win, but we just never gave it a chance. And then September 1st rolled around, which was actually a day that I was really excited for, but I was actually quite tired by the time because August had been relatively stressful. But September 1st was the first day that I started my grown-up job on a grad scheme, and I was incredibly excited for that. So the 2 months that were following were a bit more calm. We had the onboarding process in the company that I joined, and on my private side of things I was still a bit back and forth between Amsterdam and London, helping out my mum with loads of different things. And then in October, after having a debate with myself on numerous occasions on whether or not I should do this, I ended up making a video telling the world or you guys about the fact that my dad passed away. The reason why I decided to do that was the fact that I don't want to show just the happy parts of my life, and this is such a huge event. It's such a huge, well, negative event in my life in that sense, so I couldn't really ignore it. It didn't feel right to ignore it. I don't know, I just needed to do something with it. And I learned a lot about leukemia during his illness, and it's definitely something that I would like to talk about a bit more. So I figured that maybe in the future this could be a bit of a springboard or a base to me raising a bit more awareness on how you can help people with leukemia, for example. So that's why the video is out there. But it actually was quite hard to film that video. So in November, I started my first ever rotation, which was in finance, which is a bit of a weird one, but I requested to be put in finance because it's the one thing in business that I really don't know anything about. Like, I studied French lit in uni, not business or economics or anything along those lines, so I really wanted to just jump straight into deep end, and actually found out that I absolutely love data analytics. I had no idea that I would ever say this. I would have laughed in your face if you would have told me a year ago that I like data analytics, because there is just no way. But here we are. I really enjoy data analytics, and I found that out, and I'm actually really glad that I did, because now it's something that I can build on going forward into my career. Then we have Christmas and my birthday rolling around, which I spent in Amsterdam, and by then we had hoped that we would have had the keys to our new house, and we didn't, because the selling party was a bit slow on their end. So we had to keep on pushing the conveyancer to get it all through, and they effectively told told the end of November as like a first deadline that they would think that everything would be finalized, and it wasn't. So that was a bit stressful, especially since it's still not binding at this point. So we were still not wanting to celebrate it too much, but we were in the process of buying it. So it's this whole thing. And having the keys before Christmas would have meant that we could have spent that first week DIYing, doing some stuff, going back and forth, like obviously spending Christmas with my mom and all the family, but being able to sort of spend the in-between days kind of back and forth, if that makes sense, like DIYing and then actual Christmas in Amsterdam. But that didn't happen, so I'm not going to dwell on it. Either way, then January rolled around. January honestly didn't really do much for us apart from us chasing the conveyancer to get the keys, because the selling party kept on pushing the date that we were actually supposed to get the keys, which was incredibly annoying because we started planning things around potentially getting the keys. And then February 10th rolled around, which is when we finally got the keys. Finally, we got the keys to our house, and at this moment we were incredibly excited and obviously told people that we actually bought a house. So we went in and we looked at it. It required a lot of work. So we actually did a lot of admin on finding the right builders and figuring out what we were going to do ourselves / what the builder is going to do. And then we started DIYing. So like late February, we had the first like couple of days of DIYing, and then March rolled around, which was again a bit more chaotic because I ended my first rotation and I had 2 weeks of training. They were online, so one of which a bunch of my fellow grad schemers around the world decided to spend this online training week in Tenerife, which was great. So we had sun, sat at the pool, did the online trainings and got to know each other a bit better, which was a great opportunity. And then we also went on a little ski trip. We tried to go every single year with friends, and sometimes it just doesn't work out, but this time around it worked out and we went on a ski trip together, and it was actually quite fun. So then the rest of March was just plain DIYing, and I started in my new rotation, which is category development, and this far I'm really enjoying it as well, so that's good. But my life since has been a bit on hold, to be fair, with the DIYing. I wake up at 7:30 a.m. in the morning, and then I go to work, and then I hope to finish work by like 6-ish, and then I go to the house and I do some DIYing because we're not actually living in there, because it's not in a state that we can actually live in it. So I spend the evening there till about 10-11 midnight, depending on what I'm doing, because sometimes, you know, you just have to paint one layer, you cannot really do much else, but sometimes there's like loads of stuff you can do. So I'm there till midnight and I catch the last tube home, and then I sleep in my bed at home, and then I wake up the next day and do the same thing. And then on the weekends, my weekends are just filled with DIYing, and I effectively I spend the entire day doing what I normally do in an afternoon on a weekday. So that's it. That's literally my life for the past couple of months, which means that I've been so far behind on uploading videos. I'm honestly so far behind, and the quality has dropped a little bit, and I'm sorry for that, but it's busy. It's a lot of work, but we're enjoying it. I will be moving in next week, so that's great. So I can have a bit more time left and right to do some other things apart from like either sleeping, DIYing, working. I hopefully have like some couple spare minutes that I can spend doing something else, which is great. So hopefully the uploads will be back to normal. I'll be sharing you bits and bobs of my life, and not just solely DIYing, but also other stuff, but also a bit DIYing, because obviously that's currently what I'm doing like on the daily. So that's that. And then for the next year, I really hope that it's going to be a bit more calm. That's honestly it. A bit more time to myself would be nice, because I haven't had that in quite a while. Now I'm thinking about it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.